I clock in at Brennan's Hardware 6 days a week at 7:30 sharp. Same khaki jacket, same steel-toed boots, same routine that's kept me steady for 12 years. The register knows my fingerprint. I know every bolt, every pipe fitting, every brand of paint thinner we carry. People say I'm dependable. I take that as a compliment. Jenna says I'm predictable. She doesn't mean it as one. Tuesday evenings, I coach Tommy's Little League team at Riverside Park, the Wildcats. 9- and 10-year-olds who can barely hold a bat, but they try. I like the trying part. I like watching them figure out that effort matters more than natural talent. Jenna used to come to games. Back when we were newlyweds, she'd sit in the bleachers with oversized sunglasses and iced coffee, waving at me between innings. The other parents noticed her immediately. Auburn hair that catches light perfectly, green eyes that make people stop mid-sentence, this way of laughing that makes everyone want to be the reason she's smiling. Dave Patterson told me after our first game that season, "You're lucky to have her." His wife nodded along, that conspiratorial look women get when they're sizing up another woman's relationship. "She's beautiful, and so supportive." I nodded because that's what you do. You pretend the compliment sits right instead of feeling like something sharp. That was 3 years ago. Now the bleachers feel emptier, not because fewer parents show up, but because I stopped looking for her face. I asked her last month while she painted her nails at the kitchen table, "Why don't you come to Tommy's games anymore?" Crimson red, the same shade she wore on our wedding day. She didn't look up. "I get migraines from the sun." "It's evening. The sun's not that strong." "The noise then, all that yelling and cheering." I wanted to point out that she never complained about noise when she went to happy hour with her book club friends. But I didn't. You learn to pick your battles after 8 years of marriage. The migraines started around the same time she began caring more about our house's appearance. Not the inside, that was always magazine perfect, but the outside. The lawn had to be cut in diagonal patterns. The flower beds needed seasonal updates. The mailbox required fresh paint every spring. She mentioned one Saturday while I read the sports section, "The Hendersons put in new landscape lighting. It looks expensive." I glanced up. Their lighting did look expensive. Also, unnecessary. "Ours is fine," I said. Fine isn't the same as impressive. Sometimes I think you don't care how we look to other people. The way she said "we" made it sound like she meant I. At work, I know my place. I'm good at explaining pipe fittings to confused homeowners, ordering inventory, training new employees who don't last 6 months. But I'm not the guy customers remember by name. I'm steady, reliable, invisible in all the ways that matter for keeping a job, but don't matter for keeping a wife's attention. Mr. Brennan calls me his right-hand man, which sounds important until you realize it means I do the work that keeps the store running while he handles the work that keeps it profitable. He's the face, I'm the foundation, and foundations stay underground. Maybe that's why I love coaching. On the field, I'm visible. The kids listen when I explain how to position their feet for a better swing. Parents nod when I suggest batting order changes. For 2 hours every Tuesday, I'm not background noise. Tommy notices things. He's 10, but he notices when his mother starts speaking to me in that patient tone people use with children. He notices when she stops asking about my day and starts talking about her own before I've said hello. He notices when dinner conversations happen around him instead of including him. He said last week while we drove home from practice, "Mom doesn't ask about baseball anymore." I adjusted the rearview mirror to see his face. "What do you mean?" "She used to want to know if I got any hits. Now she just asks if I had fun." He kicked his cleats against the floor mat. Had fun is different than did good. Smart kid. Smarter than his father, apparently. Tuesday night after last week's game, we beat the Tigers 7-4. Tommy got 2 RBIs. I came home to find Jenna on the couch with her book club novel, something thick and literary with a depressing cover, wine beside her, classical music playing softly. She asked without looking up, "How was the game?" Good. Tommy had a great night. That's nice. She turned a page. I ordered Thai food. It's in the fridge if you want to heat some up. I stood in the kitchen doorway, still holding my coaching bag, watching her read. The classical music filled the space between us like fog. I wanted to tell her about Tommy's double, about how he'd remembered to keep his elbow up. I wanted to share the moment when he looked toward the bleachers after his hit, searching for someone to celebrate with. Instead, I reheated pad thai and ate it standing up while she read about other people's lives. That night, after she'd gone to bed early with another headache, I sat in the garage with a beer and wondered when marriages started feeling like parallel parking. Two people maneuvering around each other in tight spaces, careful not to touch, both trying to fit into spots that might not be big enough. The next afternoon, I was in the backyard fixing the fence gate that had been sticking since winter. The front door opened and closed, Tommy's voice calling out, "Mom, I'm home." Footsteps on the stairs. Tommy's room door closing. Normal sounds of a kid dropping his backpack and avoiding homework. I kept working on the gate, tightening screws and adjusting the latch. Simple problems with simple solutions. Everything has a logical fix if you know where to look and you're willing to use the right tools. 20 minutes later, Tommy appeared in the backyard. "Dad, can I ask you something?" I looked up from the screwdriver. "Sure, buddy. What's up?" He shifted his weight from foot to foot, the way he does when he's thinking through something complicated. "When I got home from school today, Mr. Patel was in your room with Mom." The screwdriver slipped in my hand and scored a line across the gate post. I don't confront Jenna that night, or the next morning, or the morning after that. Instead, I drive to the electronics store 20 minutes across town during lunch break and buy a small wireless camera, the kind marketed for home security, with cloud storage and motion activation. The sales kid explains the features with enthusiasm. It's basically invisible once you set it up, streams directly to your phone, records everything to encrypted cloud storage, motion activated so you don't waste storage space. I nod and pay in cash. The receipt goes in my wallet, filed behind my insurance cards where Jenna never looks. That evening, while she's in the shower and Tommy's at his friend Dylan's house, I install the camera in our bedroom, behind the picture frame on my dresser, angled toward the bed. Setup takes 5 minutes. The app downloads in 30 seconds. By the time I hear the water shut off, I'm back in the kitchen reading the newspaper. The first week yields nothing. Jenna goes about her normal routine. Yoga videos, online shopping, long phone calls with her sister. I start wondering if Tommy misunderstood what he saw. Maybe Mr. Patel was helping with something. Maybe he was dropping off misdelivered mail. Then Tuesday comes. Game day. I'm at the hardware store explaining the difference between galvanized and stainless steel screws to a contractor when my phone buzzes. Motion detection alert. I finish with the contractor first. Professionalism doesn't disappear because your personal life is falling apart. Then I step into the supply room and open the app. Jenna is changing the sheets. Fresh linens, hospital corners, the kind of careful attention she usually reserves for when her mother visits. She lights the candle on the nightstand, the expensive one that smells like vanilla, and adjusts the curtains to filter the afternoon light. Then she leaves. The camera records empty space for 12 minutes. At 3:47 p.m. she returns. She's not alone. Rajesh Patel follows her into our bedroom like he's been there before. He knows where to put his jacket. He knows which side of the bed she prefers. He knows that she likes the curtains closed but not completely, that she keeps bottled water in the nightstand drawer, that she always showers afterward. I watch them together for 4 minutes before I close the app. Not because I can't handle seeing more, but because I've seen enough to understand this isn't their first time. This is routine, practiced, comfortable. They move like people who know each other's rhythms. I finish my shift with the same professional competence I've maintained for 12 years. I help customers, process inventory, clean the showroom. At 5:30, I drive to Riverside Park and coach 9 kids through 2 hours of baseball practice. Tommy hits 3 doubles and makes a spectacular catch at second base. I tell him as we pack up equipment, "Great job tonight, buddy." "Thanks, Dad. Did you see that catch? I kept my glove down like you taught me." I saw it. Perfect form. We drive home with classic rock playing and Tommy humming along. Normal father-son conversation about baseball, about school, about whether we should stop for ice cream on a weeknight. He asks as we pull into the driveway, "Is Mom making dinner?" I look at the house. Lights on in the kitchen. Jenna's car parked at an angle that suggests she came home quickly. Probably. Let's go find out. Jenna is at the stove, stirring something that smells like garlic and herbs. She's changed clothes since this afternoon. Different shirt, different jeans, hair still slightly damp. She greets us with a smile that looks genuine if you don't know what happened 3 hours earlier. She asks Tommy, "How was practice?" "Great. Dad said I had perfect form on my catch today." "That's wonderful, sweetheart." She kisses the top of his head and glances at me. "I made chicken piccata. Thought we could eat as a family tonight." Family dinner. On the same day, she spent the afternoon in our bed with our neighbor. The contradiction should make me angry, but instead it makes me curious. How does someone compartmentalize that completely? I eat the chicken piccata. It's perfectly seasoned. We talk about Tommy's upcoming science project, about the weather, about whether we should replant the front flower bed this spring. Normal conversation, normal family dinner, normal evening routine. After Tommy goes to bed, I sit in my garage with a beer and my phone, scrolling through the cloud storage app. The camera has been recording for a week, 7 days of motion-activated footage. Most of it is routine. Jenna making the bed, getting dressed, looking for earrings. But scattered throughout are other clips. Tuesday afternoon with Rajesh. Thursday morning after I left for work. Saturday while Tommy was at his friend's house and I was grocery shopping. 3 times in 1 week. Each session preceded by the same careful preparation. Fresh sheets, vanilla candle, filtered lighting. Each session followed by the same routine. Shower, fresh clothes, return to normal domestic life. By the 3rd week of surveillance, I've documented a pattern. Tuesdays and Thursdays are consistent. Rajesh arrives between 3:30 and 4 p.m., leaves by 5:15. Always when Tommy's at after-school activities. Always when I'm at work. Never spontaneous. This is scheduled, coordinated, planned around our family's routine. The footage from week 3 includes audio. Jenna and Rajesh talking before and after. Casual conversation that reveals more than I want to know. She calls him Raj. He calls her beautiful. They discuss their schedules like business partners. Jenna says while buttoning her shirt, "Thursday might be tight. Tommy has early dismissal, and Mark's been coming home for lunch lately." "What about Friday morning?" Rajesh asks. "Priya's taking the girls shopping." "Friday works. Same time?" "Same time." I listen to them plan their next encounter while I sit in my work truck during lunch break, parked behind the hardware store. The conversation is matter-of-fact, efficient, devoid of romance. They're not star-crossed lovers. They're 2 people who found a mutually convenient arrangement. That night, I make a decision. I drive to the office supply store and buy a small notebook with a grid pattern. In it, I start logging everything. Dates, times, duration of visits, Jenna's preparation routine, post-encounter behavior. The pattern becomes clear within days. Jenna compensates for her afternoon activities by being an especially attentive wife in the evenings. She cooks elaborate meals, initiates conversations about my work, suggests watching movies together. But the most revealing detail isn't what she does. It's what she doesn't do. She never asks about my day with genuine curiosity. She never initiates physical contact that might lead to sex. She never suggests activities that would interfere with her Tuesday and Thursday schedule. She's managing me, managing our marriage around her affair the same way she manages our household budget or Tommy's school schedule. I'm a variable in her equation, not a partner in her life. By the end of the month, I have 47 pages of documentation and 16 hours of video evidence. I know their routine better than they do. Most importantly, I know this isn't going to end on its own. This isn't a mistake or a moment of weakness. This is a choice Jenna makes 3 times a week, with the same deliberate care she puts into meal planning. I close the notebook and put it in the fireproof safe where I keep our important documents. Insurance papers, birth certificates, mortgage information, and now evidence of my wife's systematic betrayal. Tomorrow, I'll start making phone calls. The first phone call is to Bradley, Kemp & Associates, the law firm that handled our home purchase 8 years ago. I tell the receptionist I need to speak with someone about family law, and she schedules me for Thursday at 2 p.m. with Sarah Kemp. She asks, "What's the nature of your consultation?" "Divorce," I say. The word feels heavy and final, like swallowing a stone. The second call is to my bank. I need to understand our financial situation completely before I make any moves. I schedule an appointment with our personal banker for Friday morning. I make both calls from my truck during lunch break, parked behind the hardware store where the cell signal is weak but private. The mundane logistics of dismantling a marriage require the same methodical approach as any other project. But between the phone calls and appointments, I do something else. Something that feels like picking at a wound that should be left alone. I go through Jenna's digital life. She's never been secretive about her devices. Her laptop password is Tommy's birthday. Her phone uses the same 4-digit PIN for everything. For 8 years, this openness felt like trust. Now it feels like carelessness. Her text messages reveal the surface layer, conversations with her sister about restaurants, with book club friends about their next selection, with other moms about school fundraisers, normal suburban wife communications. But her email tells a different story. Gmail has a search function most people forget about. I search for Rajesh's name and find 3 months of correspondence. Not love letters, but logistical coordination disguised as neighborly small talk. "Hi, Raj. Thanks for helping with the garden hose situation yesterday. You're so handy with fixing things. Let me know if you need anything. Jenna. Happy to help anytime. I noticed your back gate was sticking when I was leaving. I could take a look at that Thursday if you'd like. I read 6 weeks of these emails, each one a small masterpiece of plausible deniability. To anyone else, they look like friendly neighbor communication. But knowing what I know, they read like appointment confirmations. The deeper I dig, the more I understand how long this has been building. Rajesh's name appears in her Google search history from 4 months ago. Searches for discreet affair advice and how to know if your marriage is over, dating back even further. But the most damaging discovery comes from her private Facebook messages with her friend Lisa, sent last month. Lisa: "How are things with you and Mark these days? You seemed distant at dinner last week." Jenna: "Honestly, I feel like I'm married to wallpaper. He's there, he's functional, but he doesn't really contribute anything to the room, you know?" Lisa: "That sounds harsh." Jenna: "Maybe. But it's true. He goes to work, he coaches Tommy's team, he fixes things around the house. He's like this steady, reliable presence that never changes or grows or surprises me. It's suffocating." Lisa: "Have you talked to him about this?" Jenna: "What would I say? Hi, honey, you're boring and I need more excitement." He'd probably make a to-do list to address my concerns. Lisa: "LOL. Okay, that's probably accurate. But seriously, what are you going to do?" Jenna: "I don't know. Sometimes I think about what my life would be like with someone who had more ambition, more passion, someone who made more money or had a more interesting career. Mark's sweet, but he's so average, and I'm not sure average is enough anymore." I read that conversation 3 times, each time feeling something cold and sharp settle deeper in my chest. Not heartbreak, that would require surprise. This feels more like confirmation. She's bored with me. Has been for longer than I realized. The affair isn't about passion or romance. It's about escape from a marriage she's outgrown, with a man she considers fundamentally insufficient. I keep reading. Jenna. The worst part is how grateful he is for everything. Like, pathetically grateful. I cook dinner and he acts like I've performed some miraculous feat. I dress up for date night and he looks at me like he can't believe someone like me would be with someone like him. Lisa. That doesn't sound like the worst thing in the world. Jenna. It is when you realize it means he's settled for a life that's smaller than what he could have. And by extension, I've settled too. We're both just existing, going through the motions of being married without actually living. The conversation continues, but I stop reading. I've learned what I needed to know about my wife's perspective on our marriage and my place in her life. I'm not a husband to her. I'm a service provider, someone who maintains the infrastructure of her domestic life while she pursues more stimulating experiences elsewhere. But the most illuminating discovery comes from her browser history, buried in late-night Google searches from 2 weeks ago. How to leave husband without losing house. Pennsylvania divorce laws property division. Can stay-at-home spouse get alimony? Child custody when father works full-time. She's not just having an affair. She's planning an exit strategy. The searches reveal a woman who's already mentally divorced but trying to figure out how to make the transition without losing the financial security that comes with being married to someone who owns a house outright. She wants to leave me, but she wants to keep the lifestyle I've provided. That night, after Tommy goes to bed and Jenna settles in with her book and wine, I sit in the garage with my notebook and write down everything I've learned. Not just about the affair, but about how my wife actually sees me. The picture that emerges is of a woman who's been mentally preparing to discard me for months, but who's smart enough to wait until she's secured better options and minimized her financial risk. She thinks I'm predictable, average, someone who accepts life instead of pursuing it. She's not wrong about any of that. But she's made one critical miscalculation. She assumes that being predictable means being passive, that accepting life as it is means accepting life as it will always be. Tomorrow, I have an appointment with a divorce lawyer. Friday, I meet with my banker. By next week, I'll know exactly what my options are. Jenna can keep thinking I'm average. She can keep believing I'll react predictably to whatever move she makes next. That's going to make what comes next much easier for me and much more surprising for her. Sarah Kemp's office smells like leather and expensive coffee. Floor-to-ceiling bookshelves lined with legal volumes, diplomas from universities I couldn't afford, photographs of her shaking hands with judges and politicians. She says, settling into her chair with a legal pad, "Tell me about your situation." I hand her a manila folder containing printed copies of everything. The emails between Jenna and Rajesh, screenshots of her Facebook messages, bank statements, the deed to our house with only my name on it, documentation of Tommy's school records and my coaching involvement. My wife is having an affair with our neighbor, I say. She's also planning to leave me, but she wants to do it in a way that maximizes her financial benefit. I need to understand my options. Sarah opens the folder and reads silently for 10 minutes. Occasionally, she makes notes or asks clarifying questions. She says finally, "This is very thorough documentation. Most people come in here with suspicions and emotions. You've come in with evidence and facts. I work in retail. Documentation prevents disputes." She smiles at that. Good principle for divorce law, too. Let me explain your position. First, Pennsylvania is a no-fault divorce state, which means adultery doesn't automatically give you an advantage in asset division. However, it can be a factor in custody determinations, especially if the affair demonstrates poor judgment regarding the child's welfare. I lean forward. What kind of poor judgment? Exposing the child to the affair partner, prioritizing the relationship over parenting responsibilities, that sort of thing. From what you've documented, your wife has been conducting this affair during times when your son could potentially discover it. That's relevant. She flips through more pages. The more significant factor in your favor is property ownership. The house is in your name only, purchased before the marriage with your own funds. That makes it separate property, not marital property. She has no automatic claim to it. What about alimony? Possible, but limited. Pennsylvania alimony is based on need and ability to pay. Your wife has a college degree and work history. She's not completely dependent on you financially, and given that you're not high income, any alimony award would be modest and time-limited. She closes the folder and looks at me directly. Mr. Ellison, I'll be frank. Your wife appears to believe she's in a stronger position than she actually is. If she files for divorce, she'll likely be disappointed by the outcome. If you file first, with this documentation, you'll be in a very strong position for both custody and asset protection. What would that look like practically? Primary custody of your son. She keeps whatever she brought into the marriage plus half of marital assets, but no claim to the house. You'd pay modest child support when he's with her, but given your income and her earning capacity, that wouldn't be substantial. I think about this. Jenna's been planning her exit strategy based on assumptions that aren't legally accurate. How long does the process take? Uncontested, about 4 months. If she fights it, 6 to 12 months. But given the evidence you have, most reasonable attorneys would advise her to settle quickly rather than risk a trial. I schedule a follow-up appointment for the following week and leave with a clear understanding of my legal position. I'm stronger than I thought. Jenna is weaker than she thinks. The meeting with my banker on Friday morning provides equally useful information. Our joint savings account contains $23,000. Our joint checking account fluctuates between $3,000 and $5,000. Tommy's college fund, which I've been funding exclusively, has $31,000. The house is worth approximately $185,000 with no remaining mortgage balance. The banker explains, most of your assets are in your name only. The house, the college fund, your retirement account, the joint accounts are relatively small. This puts you in an unusual position for someone going through divorce. What kind of position? You don't need to liquidate major assets to achieve separation. Most divorced couples have to sell the house because neither party can afford to buy out the other. You don't have that problem. By Friday afternoon, I have a complete picture of the practical realities. Divorce won't destroy me financially. It won't force me to uproot Tommy from his school or his friends. It won't require me to change my lifestyle dramatically. But Jenna doesn't know any of this. She's been planning based on assumptions about marital property rights that don't apply to our situation. That weekend, I start making other calls, strategic calls. The first is to Rajesh's employer. I do some research and discover that his company has a strict ethics policy regarding relationships that could compromise professional judgment. Employees are required to disclose any personal relationships that might create conflicts of interest. I don't call HR directly. Instead, I send an anonymous email to the company's ethics hotline with photographs of Rajesh's car in our driveway, time-stamped during business hours. The message is carefully worded. I've observed an employee of your company regularly visiting a neighbor's home during work hours. This appears to be personal rather than professional activity. Given your company's reputation in the community, I thought you should be aware of how employees are representing the organization during business hours. I include Rajesh's full name, his license plate number, and 3 photographs showing his car parked in our driveway at 3:45 p.m. on a Tuesday. No mention of the affair, just documentation of an employee who's not where he's supposed to be during work hours. The second call is to my neighbor, Mrs. Chen, who lives across the street and has always been friendly but observant. I mention casually that I've been working longer hours lately, and I'm concerned about home security while Jenna's alone during the day. I ask, have you noticed anything unusual? Cars in the driveway that shouldn't be there, that sort of thing? Mrs. Chen considers this. Well, now that you mention it, I have seen Mr. Patel's car at your house quite often when you're not home. I assumed Jenna was helping him with something, or maybe he was helping her. But it does seem frequent. How frequent? A few times a week? Always in the afternoon? I only notice because I'm usually in my garden around that time. I thank her for keeping an eye on things and ask her to let me know if she notices anything concerning. Mrs. Chen is a retired school teacher who prides herself on community awareness. She'll start paying closer attention now, and she'll mention it to other neighbors when the topic comes up naturally. The third call is to Tommy's school counselor, not to discuss divorce yet, but to establish a relationship and create documentation of my involvement in Tommy's education. I tell the counselor, I wanted to schedule a conference to discuss Tommy's academic progress. I coach his baseball team, but I want to make sure I'm equally involved in his school success. The counselor is impressed that I'm taking initiative. Most fathers let mothers handle school communication. We schedule a meeting for the following week, and she notes in Tommy's file that his father is actively engaged in his education. These aren't dramatic moves. They're small, strategic adjustments that will pay dividends later. Establishing my reputation as an involved father. Creating documentation of Rajesh's poor professional judgment. Building a network of community members who've noticed the affair without me having to point it out directly. By Sunday evening, I've laid the groundwork for Jenna's isolation. When our divorce becomes public knowledge, the community narrative will already be established. I'm the devoted father working extra hours to provide for his family. She's the bored wife who entertained other men while her husband was at work. I start picking Tommy up from school more often, taking him to practice early, scheduling weekend activities that don't require Jenna's participation. Not to keep him away from his mother, but to establish that his primary care comes from me. Tommy asks on Wednesday as we drive to practice, "Why are you picking me up so much lately?" "I realized I was missing too much of your day," I tell him. "Work will always be there. You won't always be 10 years old." That night, Jenna asks the same question with less innocent curiosity. "You've been leaving work early a lot this week. Is everything okay at the store?" "Everything's fine. I just want to spend more time with Tommy before he gets too old to want me around." She nods, but I see the calculation in her eyes. My schedule changes affect her schedule. Tuesday and Thursday afternoons are becoming more complicated when I'm picking Tommy up from school instead of leaving him in aftercare. Friday morning, while Jenna's at her yoga class and Tommy's at school, I meet with Sarah Kemp again. This time, I'm ready to file. She asks, reviewing the paperwork, "Are you certain about this timing?" I'm certain. Once we file, there's no controlling how quickly this moves. She'll be served within a week. I think about the conversation I overheard through the bedroom camera yesterday. Jenna and Rajesh discussing plans for next month, talking about spending a weekend together when his wife takes their daughters to visit her parents. They're escalating, becoming careless. "File the papers," I say. I serve Jenna with divorce papers on a Tuesday morning. Not at home where Tommy might overhear, but at her yoga studio where she'll have to maintain composure in front of other people. Sarah Kemp arranged for a process server to handle delivery while I'm at work, maintaining normal routine. The server calls me at 11:15 a.m. to confirm. Jenna received the papers at 10:47 a.m. as she left her hot yoga class. My phone starts ringing at 11:32 a.m. Jenna's number, then unknown numbers, then Jenna again. I let them all go to voicemail and continue helping customers at the hardware store. Mrs. Rodriguez needs advice about refinishing her kitchen cabinets. Normal problems with normal solutions. The voicemails accumulate throughout the day. First confusion and disbelief, then anger, then panic, as Jenna realizes what the papers actually contain. I listen to them during my lunch break. "Mark, what the hell is this? Call me back right now." "I don't understand what's happening. These papers are saying you want custody of Tommy. We need to talk about this." "Mark, please call me. I know we have problems, but this isn't how you fix a marriage. I went to the bank. They said you closed our credit line. What did you do?" The last voicemail comes at 3:22 p.m., her voice smaller and more frightened than I've ever heard it. "Mark, I can't get into our accounts. My credit card was declined at the grocery store. Please, just call me back and explain this. I delete the voicemails and drive to pick up Tommy from school. He's waiting by the flagpole with his backpack and his science project, a volcano made from papier-mâché. I tell him as he climbs into the truck, "Careful with that. All your hard work shouldn't get destroyed in one car ride." "Mom helped me with the baking soda part," he says, settling the volcano between his feet. "She said the chemical reaction is like what happens in real volcanoes, but smaller." "Your mom's smart about those things." We drive home with Tommy talking about his science presentation and me thinking about chemical reactions. How stable elements become volatile when they're combined with other substances. How pressure builds until it has to release somehow. Jenna's car is in the driveway when we arrive, but she's not in the house. I find her sitting on the front steps, still wearing her yoga clothes, holding the divorce papers in her lap. She says without looking up, "Take Tommy inside. We need to talk." Tommy asks, seeing her expression, "Dad, is Mom okay?" "She's fine, buddy. Why don't you go work on your homework? I'll help you practice your volcano presentation after dinner." Tommy goes inside, glancing back once at his mother. Jenna waits until she hears the front door close. "What is this, Mark?" "It's exactly what it looks like." "No, it's not. This says you want primary custody. It says I committed adultery. It says you want me out of the house." Her voice is controlled, but I can see her hands shaking. "This isn't real. It's completely real." She stands up, the papers fluttering in the afternoon breeze. "You can't just file for divorce without talking to me first. Our marriage stopped working when you started sleeping with Rajesh Patel." The name hits her like a physical blow. She staggers backward, her face going pale. "I don't know what you think you know, but I know everything, Jenna. I have video. I have emails. I have documentation going back 3 months." I keep my voice level, factual. "I know about Tuesday and Thursday afternoons. I know about the fresh sheets and the vanilla candle. I know you've been planning to leave me anyway." She stares at me with an expression I've never seen before. Not anger or shame, but calculation. She's trying to figure out how much I actually know and what it means for her position. She says carefully, "Even if that were true, we can work through it. People have affairs. Marriages survive. Not this marriage. Not anymore." "What about Tommy? You're going to destroy his family over this." "I'm protecting him from growing up in a house built on lies." She laughs, but it sounds more like a sob. "Protecting him? By taking away his mother? By making sure his primary home is with the parent who prioritizes his welfare over personal gratification?" Jenna realizes I'm not speaking from emotion. I'm speaking from legal strategy, armed with evidence she can't dispute. "My credit cards don't work," she says, switching tactics. "The bank account is frozen." "What did you do?" "I protected our assets from being depleted during litigation. Everything that's legally mine is secured. Everything that's legally ours is frozen until the court decides how to divide it." "That's my money too." "Actually, most of it isn't. The house is mine. The college fund is mine. The retirement account is mine. The joint checking account contains about $4,000. That's what we'll split." I watch her process this information. She's realizing that her assumptions about marital property were completely wrong. That 8 years of marriage doesn't entitle her to half of everything. That the house she's been living in was never actually hers. "You can't do this to me, Mark. I don't have anywhere to go." "You have options. You can stay with your sister until you find an apartment. You can move in with Rajesh, assuming his wife doesn't throw him out first. You can get a job and rent a place of your own." "A job? I haven't worked full-time in 6 years." "That was your choice, not mine." She sits back down on the steps, the fight going out of her. "This is insane. We can fix this. I'll end things with Raj. We can go to counseling." "I don't want to start over with you, Jenna. I want to start over without you." The finality in my voice seems to reach her. She looks up at me with something like recognition, as if she's seeing me clearly for the first time in years. "You've been planning this," she says. "This isn't about the affair. You've been planning to leave me." "No. I've been planning to stop accepting a marriage where I'm treated like hired help." "That's not... I never treated you like hired help. You treated me like someone whose job was to provide stability while you pursued excitement elsewhere. Someone grateful enough for your attention that I wouldn't question where you spent your afternoons." She opens her mouth to argue, then closes it. The truth is too obvious to deny. "What happens now?" she asks. "Now you find a lawyer. You respond to the petition. We negotiate terms, or we let a judge decide for us." "And Tommy?" "Tommy stays in his home, goes to his same school, keeps his same routine. The only thing that changes is you won't be living here anymore." She stands up again, smoothing down her yoga clothes, trying to regain some dignity. "You think you're so smart, don't you? You think you've outsmarted me? I think I've stopped underestimating myself. This will backfire, Mark. Tommy will hate you for breaking up our family. Tommy will understand that I protected him from growing up in a broken family that was pretending to be whole." She walks to her car without another word. I watch her drive away, then go inside to help Tommy practice his volcano presentation. We mix baking soda and vinegar in the kitchen sink, watching the foamy eruption spill over the sides. "Cool, right, Dad?" Tommy says, grinning at the chemical reaction. "Very cool, buddy. Science is all about understanding how things really work, not just how they appear to work." "What do you mean?" "Sometimes things look stable on the outside, but they're actually building pressure underneath. When that pressure gets released, everything changes very quickly." Tommy nods solemnly, as if he understands we're talking about more than just his science project. That night, after Tommy goes to bed, I sit in the garage with a beer and my notebook. I write down everything that happened today, the times, the conversations, Jenna's reactions, documentation for the custody hearing, but also a record of the day my marriage officially ended. Not the day it actually ended. That was months ago, when Jenna made her first Tuesday afternoon appointment with Rajesh. Today was just the day we stopped pretending it was still alive. Tomorrow, Tommy will present his volcano to his science class. It will erupt on schedule, demonstrating the predictable results of combining unstable elements under pressure. Some chemical reactions are explosive but brief. Others burn slowly and completely, leaving nothing behind but ash. I'm hoping for the slow burn. 3 months later, I'm living in a 2-bedroom apartment 8 minutes from Tommy's school. Small but clean, with a balcony that overlooks the parking lot and a kitchen table where Tommy does his homework while I make dinner. The walls are white because I haven't had time to paint them, and the furniture is minimal because I don't need much. Tommy has his own room here, decorated with his baseball trophies and posters of players I've never heard of but pretend to recognize. He stays with me Sunday through Thursday, with Jenna Friday through Saturday. The schedule was Jenna's idea, proposed by her lawyer as a compromise. What she didn't consider was that weekend custody means managing a 10-year-old's social life, homework supervision, and meal planning without the infrastructure of an established home. 2 days a week in a studio apartment she's renting across town. "Mom doesn't have a dishwasher," Tommy mentions on Sunday evening while we're cleaning up after dinner. "She has to wash everything by hand." "That's not so bad," I tell him. "Lots of people wash dishes by hand." "Yeah, but she gets frustrated when there are too many dishes. Yesterday she ordered pizza because she didn't want to cook and then have to clean up." I don't comment on this, but I file it away. Jenna's adjustment to single motherhood isn't going smoothly. The divorce was finalized 6 weeks ago. Jenna got a job at a marketing firm downtown. Entry level, lower salary than she wanted, but better than retail. She moved out of her sister's house and into the studio apartment. She bought a used car when she realized she couldn't afford payments on something new. Rajesh Patel was fired from his pharmaceutical company 2 weeks after the ethics investigation began. His wife Priya filed for divorce a month later. The neighborhood gossip network, led by Mrs. Chen, ensured that everyone understood the connection between these events and my own divorce proceedings. I don't take satisfaction in Rajesh's professional destruction, but I don't feel guilty about it either. He made choices that had consequences. "Are you dating anyone, Dad?" Tommy asks one Thursday evening while we're watching a baseball game on TV. The question surprises me. "No, buddy. Why do you ask?" "Some kids at school said divorced dads always get girlfriends right away, like to replace their wives or something." I consider how to respond. "I'm not looking to replace anybody. I'm focused on taking care of you and figuring out our new normal." "What about when I'm older? Like, when I'm in high school and don't need as much taking care of?" "I don't know. Maybe. Would that bother you?" Tommy thinks about this seriously. "I guess not, as long as she was nice to me and didn't try to be my mom. I already have a mom." "You do, and that won't change, no matter what else happens." He nods and turns back to the game. The conversation feels closed, but I know it's the first of many we'll have about how our family structure continues to evolve. Jenna has started dating. Nothing serious yet, according to Tommy's casual reports, but she's downloaded apps and goes out occasionally on Friday nights when Tommy's with her. She's struggling with the logistics, finding babysitters, managing her limited budget, maintaining the social life she wants while caring for a 10-year-old every weekend. I don't date, not because I'm opposed to the idea, but because I genuinely don't have the time or energy. My life is full in ways it wasn't during my marriage. Work, Tommy's activities, maintaining our new routine, building the kind of father-son relationship I want us to have. Tuesday evenings at Riverside Park feel different now. I still coach the Wildcats, but my attention is more focused. I notice things about the kids' development that I missed before. I spend more time after practice talking with individual players about their techniques. "Coach Mark, are you coming back next season?" asks Danny, one of our best hitters, as we pack up equipment after practice. "Absolutely. Why wouldn't I? My dad said sometimes coaches quit when they get divorced. He said it's too much stress." "Your dad's not wrong about divorce being stressful," I tell him. "But coaching this team is one of the best parts of my week. I'm not going anywhere." Danny grins and runs off to find his mother. Several other parents have approached me over the season with similar concerns. The consistency of my presence has been reassuring to them and to me. The bleachers during games hold different people now. Parents I've gotten to know better, grandparents who come to watch their grandchildren play, siblings dragged along for family support. I don't scan them looking for Jenna anymore. I don't feel the absence of someone who should be there but isn't. Instead, I watch Tommy at second base, see him execute the defensive plays we've practiced, notice how he encourages his teammates when they make mistakes. He's becoming the kind of player who makes everyone around him better. "Great game tonight," I tell him as we drive home after beating the Eagles 9-3. "Thanks. I think I'm getting better at turning double plays." "You are. Your footwork is much smoother than it was at the beginning of the season. Will you keep coaching when I'm too old for Little League?" "Do you want me to?" "Yeah. It's fun having you as my coach, and you're good at teaching kids stuff." "Then I'll keep doing it as long as they'll have me." We drive the rest of the way home in comfortable silence, listening to classic rock and planning what to make for dinner. Normal evening routine in our new normal life. This is the life I've built from the wreckage of my marriage. Smaller in some ways, but more intentional. Quieter, but more peaceful. I don't have to wonder where my partner is or what she's thinking about or whether the person I'm married to actually wants to be married to me. I have Tommy 4 nights a week and every other weekend. I have work that pays the bills and gives me purpose. I have coaching, which connects me to the community in ways that matter. I have a home that's mine, furnished with only what we need. Some evenings, after Tommy's asleep, I sit on the balcony with a beer and think about the choices that led me here. Not with regret, but with something like relief. The marriage I worked so hard to preserve wasn't worth preserving. Jenna tried to contact me last month, not about Tommy or logistics, but to apologize. She sent a long email explaining that she'd been confused and unhappy, and she'd made mistakes. She said she understood now what she'd given up, what our marriage had meant. I deleted the email without responding, not out of anger, but out of indifference. Her opinion of me, positive or negative, no longer affects my opinion of myself. Tonight, after Tommy's gone to bed, I checked the weather forecast for tomorrow's game. Sunny, 72 degrees, light wind from the southwest. Perfect baseball weather. The bleachers will be full of parents cheering for their kids, grandparents with cameras, siblings eating concession stand nachos. Normal family scenes playing out around us while Tommy and I focus on the game itself. I don't look for anyone who isn't there anymore. I see who is there, and that's enough. That's more than enough. It's everything. And that's the end of today's story. If you enjoyed it, please give this video a thumbs up and drop a comment below. Your support helps the algorithm push my content further. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It really helps me keep creating more stories for you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.